Right guys, we have more news regarding the chipset the iPad mini 7's getting, and it's actually good news, so let's dive right in. In case you've missed my previous videos on the iPad mini 7, a lot of previous rumors suggested this refresh would be pretty tame and might only offer the A16 chipset as the main upgrades. Now this would be very disappointing for those holding out for a new model, especially when of course the jump from A15 to A16 is very minor, though thankfully Mac rumors came to save the day and sifted through technical information posted by a private account on Twitter who has been credible in the past, and they claimed the iPad mini 7 would get the A17, which was fantastic news, and happy days because now we have another source jumping on the bandwagon and corroborating on this as well. Courtesy of Nicholas Alvarez, they tell us iPad mini 7's gonna have the identifiers iPad 16,1 and iPad 16,2 for the Wi-Fi and cellular version, and most importantly will have the A17. We all know A17 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro brought over ray tracing to the iPhone, and whilst I don't particularly care for this, it did allow for AAA titles to come to the iPhone, and so for those serious about having the best portable gaming experience, I feel like the iPad mini is the ideal form factor because it offers a display that's bigger than the iPhone, but of course it's still very compact, and it's much easier to game with this than the full-size iPads. Now the report does not specify whether it's going to be the A17 Pro or a basic version of the A17. I could see Apple going either route, but if we do see a basic A17, it's likely going to be a bin version with one fewer GPU core, so there's not going to be a big difference in the overall performance of the chipset. I know right now not many games support ray tracing, but the more devices that support this, the more likely it is for game developers to jump on boards and take advantage of the hardware. And I've seen many in my comments ask how COD Mobile runs on previous iPad mini models, and so just imagine the game experience now that of course this has bloody ray tracing, and you could maybe even run the full fat version of Call of Duty since A17 Pro right now does support some games ported directly from the PS4. So a new chipset would really turn this iPad into the ultimate gaming machine, and I'm praying it does not get the A16. You know what I'm also praying for you to subscribe to the channel, of course. I would greatly appreciate it, and it would bring you the latest about Apple right to subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated. We're trying to hit our next milestone of 16,000 subscribers, so join the saranbyte gang now. Now I know what you're wondering, the base iPhone 16 should be getting last year's chipset, and so maybe they plan to chuck the base A17 in that as well? Well yes, based on what Apple's done in the past with the iPhone 14 and 15, that would make sense, especially since they can't put a Pro chipset in a non-Pro device. But we have actually heard all iPhones this year are getting a variant of the A18. This source does say there's likely still going to be A18 Pro for the Pro phones that offer slightly more grunt, but at least they're offering one of the latest chipsets on the flagship iPhone again. Now this is actually where I'm a little confused about the iPad mini, because a lot of people said the main reason the iPhone's getting the A18 is because the A17 is based on the flawed N3B process that Apple wants to move away from, and so that's why they announced the M4 a little earlier than expected. But if that's the case, why is the Mini 7 getting the A17, you may be wondering? Well, if I were to guess, maybe any leftover chips for the 15 Pro are going straight to the Mini, so that could increase the chances of this getting the full fat A17 Pro. And also remember, because it's getting the A17 and also likely 8 gigs of RAM, it will support Apple Intelligence, and that's pretty awesome. Now the question that's still on everyone's mind is, when is this thing actually going to bloody release? Well, Min Chi Kuo gave us an update on the 2024 timeline for new iPad releases, and according to his sources, we won't see the iPad mini 7 till the second half of 2024, which of course we just entered, and so that's likely a September or October release, which is a bit of a wait, but it does make sense because we saw the Mini 6 launch at the September 2021 event alongside the iPhone 13. And that's it guys, overall it seems like this will be a spec refresh for the most part, but if it does get the A17 I'm fine with that because that chipset alone should be a massive upgrade. Also, if you look at the trajectory for the Mini, it only got 2 major redesigns since its conception, and so especially with how big of an upgrade the Mini 6 was, it makes sense to follow up with a spec update, and plus there likely won't be a price increase. However, Apple does always tweak a few other things with their spec updates, and so let's delve into the other rumors we've heard about this iPad. So for one, we've heard that Apple's allegedly reducing the jelly scrolling effect with this new Mini. Now I'm still going to be honest with you guys, I personally felt this was overblown because I could easily look past it. Yes, I am basically blind with my massive spectacles, but I really could not pick up on anything when using the Mini, though of course, I'm not going to pretend like this is a conspiracy theory by the tech community, because I'm aware it does put off some consumers from buying the Mini, and so to reduce this, Apple plans to rotate the screen assembly to reduce the jelly scrolling effect in portrait modes. Now, does that mean jelly scrolling is going to be more prominent in the landscape orientation? Who knows, but at the end of the day, guys, I don't care about this because I wasn't bothered by jelly scrolling in the first place. I know people are also hoping we see OLED, and that is in the works, but it's not releasing now. You see, the iPad Pro is only just getting the OLED upgrades, and so it's going to take a while for this to be passed down the range, and whenever the next iPad mini launches after the Mini 7, that could get an OLED display in my opinion. Now, please don't wait for that based on what I'm saying, because if the Mini 7's launching 3 years after the Mini 6, you could be waiting till 2027 for the OLED Mini. And so if you need an iPad right now, get the Mini 7 or some other iPad, because they all do the job perfectly fine. Your eyes won't burn if you don't get the inky blacks of OLEDs, and if you absolutely need OLED, get the iPad Pro instead. Anyways, another change we've heard about is the front-facing camera being upgraded. The leaker did not specify what's changing, but if I were to guess, it's probably the landscape camera we got with the iPad Air Pro, since the Mini is now the only iPad not to have this. And that's really it for the changes. We could also see Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 supports. Also, we will likely see some new colors, but don't expect them to be too snazzy because the iPad Air 6 colors were very tame, and so I'm expecting similar shades for this new Mini. And talking about the iPad Air, things like 128 gigs of base storage, Apple Pencil Pro supports, and also the landscape camera, as I mentioned previously, should come to the Mini as well. And so overall, this will be a very nice upgrade, especially if it does get the A17. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. So time is flying by because it's officially been 9 months since the iPhone 15 was released. We're more than halfway into the cycle, which means iPhone 16 is on the horizon, and so I thought I'd update you guys on how the experience has been with this device in terms of long-term usage and whether you should buy this or wait for the next iPhone. So let's begin with the design, and obviously as someone who's primarily been using the 6.7-inch size in the past, I was glad to downsize and return to the 6.1-inch form factor. As soon as I picked up the iPhone 15, the size just felt right. And of course, I've had 6.1-inch iPhones in the past, but the slightly curvier corners do make a difference when caseless. I should reiterate though, this really only applies when caseless, because for the majority of consumers using a case, you likely won't see much of a difference in terms of in-hand feel. However, I am someone who likes to occasionally live life on the edge and actually use the iPhone 12 for a year caseless. Now, ceramics sure do not age as well, to be fair, because literally the air can scratch it. But I've been using the 15 cases whenever possible because it just feels like this phone has to be used without a case.